Inch high, private eye. Oh, hi, Uncle Inch.
It's a 409. Geronimo.
You remember the trench coat, the magnifying glass, and of course the fact that he was only 1 inch high. Hanna Barbera's pint-sized super sleuth was a Saturday morning staple. But believe it or not, the weirdest mysteries about inch-high Private Eye weren't in the cartoon, they were in the production files. Now, airing for a single season in the fall of 1973, Inch-High Private Eye was a flash in the pan, a brilliant, bizarre blip on the Saturday morning radar. And for 13 episodes, we followed the adventures of the world's biggest little detective who solved crimes for the Pinkerton Detective Agency with his niece Laurie, her boyfriend Gator, and their dog Braveheart. The premise was simple enough, but the story behind the show is anything but. So, grab your magnifying glass as we investigate the 15 weirdest facts you never knew about Inch-High Private Eye. Fact 1. A deliberate Maxwell Smart clone. If you've ever watched Inch-High and thought, hey, this guy sounds familiar, you weren't just hearing things.
Rich, 329 Easy Street. She's our prime suspect.
Mrs. Rich, a suspect?
Absolute.
The entire character was built from the ground up to be a direct parody of Maxwell Smart from the hit sitcom Get Smart.
Did of arson, treason, insurrection, and mass murder?
He got time off for good behavior.
And don't try to follow me.
Don't worry, I wouldn't think of it.
Running from 1965 to 1970, Get Smart starred comedian Don Adams as the bumbling secret agent Maxwell Smart. Hanna Barbera wanted to capture that exact same magic of a hopelessly clumsy yet somehow successful agent. They specifically told voice actor Lenny Weinrib to imitate Don Adams' iconic nasally delivery. And this wasn't just a quiet little nod, it was a full-blown vocal impersonation meant to make audiences instantly connect the tiny detective with the world-famous secret agent. Fact 2. He was secretly at Frankenstein's monster of comedians. Now, while Don Adams was the main ingredient, some say Lenny Weinrib tossed another comedy legend into the mix. It's widely believed that Weinrib blended Adams' distinct cadence with the persona of Jack Benny. Now, for those who don't know, Jack Benny was a master of comedic timing, famous for his long, exasperated pauses and his perpetually stingy character. By mixing the frantic energy of Maxwell Smart with the world-weary sigh of Jack Benny, Weinrib created a truly unique performance. Fact 3. He even stole his catchphrases. Now, the Get Smart imitation didn't stop with the voice. To really hammer the connection home, the writers for Inch-High Private Eye borrowed some of Maxwell Smart's most famous types of catchphrases. Lines like, "Sorry about that, Chief," were lifted right out of the Agent 86 playbook. Hearing these iconic phrases come out of a 1-inch tall detective's mouth was all part of the joke. And for parents watching with their kids, the references were instant and hilarious. For the kids, they just became part of Inch-High's quirky charm. Fact 4. His employer was a real-world parody. The parody didn't just stop with the main character. Inch-High's employer, the Pinkerton Detective Agency, was a direct and not-so-subtle jab at a very real and famous detective agency, the Pinkerton National Detective Agency. Now, founded way back in the 1850s, the Pinkertons were pioneers in private investigation, famous for everything from foiling an assassination plot against Abraham Lincoln to their controversial work as strikebreakers. And by naming the agency Pinkerton, Hanna Barbera was poking fun at one of the most legendary names in law enforcement history. Fact 5. It broke a classic Hanna Barbera rule. For years, Hanna Barbera's bread and butter was mystery-solving teenagers. From Scooby-Doo to Josie and the Pussycats, the formula was almost always a group of hip kids solving crimes. Now, Inch-High Private Eye threw that rule right out of the window. In a major departure, every main character in the show is an adult. Inch-High is a working professional, his niece Laurie is a young adult, and her boyfriend Gator is her peer. And this made the show feel different from the rest of the Saturday morning lineup. Fact 6. The secret of the unstable potion. So, how did Inch-High get so small? Well, the answer is a top-secret shrinking potion. As the story goes, Inch-High took this mysterious formula to gain the ultimate edge in spying. He could listen in on criminals from inside a matchbox or disguise himself as an earring. But there was a huge catch. The potion wasn't stable. A running gag in the series was Inch-High suddenly growing back to his normal size at the absolute worst of moments, adding a ticking clock tension and great physical comedy to his adventures. Fact 7. His boss was the classic angry boss. Now, the show's pop culture web continued with Inch-High's perpetually frustrated boss, Mr. Pinkerton. And Mr. Pinkerton's entire existence was defined by his burning desire to one day fire his most famous yet most incompetent detective. He was the perfect foil for Inch-High, a cheap, angry, sputtering authority figure who was always just one botched case away from a complete meltdown. This character type created a classic workplace comedy dynamic that fueled many of the show's jokes. Fact 8. A partridge on the payroll. Inch-High's niece, Laurie, was the competent, intelligent heart of the team, but her name might hide another 70s pop culture secret. It's a popular theory that the character was inspired by Laurie Partridge from the huge sitcom The Partridge Family. And this theory gets a boost because in some documents and discussions about the show, her name is spelled Laurie instead of the Lori used in the credits. Fact 9. The ultimate stealth vehicle. Now, every great detective needs a great ride, and the Inch-High team had one of the stealthiest in cartoon history, the Hushmobile. Now, this sleek futuristic car had one very special feature. It made almost no noise when it was being driven, and this made it the perfect vehicle for tailing suspects and sneaking up on hideouts. While the Batmobile was all about power, the Hushmobile was designed for pure subtlety. Fact 10. The brain was also tiny. Now, despite being the hero and the world's biggest little detective, Inch-High was, let's be honest, not very bright. The show's own creators called him a know-nothing know-it-all. He loved doing things the hard way, constantly fumbling and botching every operation. While he was a master of tiny disguises, his deductive reasoning was, well, also pretty tiny. More often than not, it was his niece Laurie or even Gator who had the flash of insight that actually cracked the case. Fact 11. He took his job very seriously. And here's the central joke of Inch-High's character. Despite his incompetence and constant reliance on luck, he was a completely no-nonsense private investigator who took his job with the utmost seriousness. In his own mind, he wasn't a fool. He was a hard-boiled detective like Sam Spade. He delivered his lines with gritty determination even when he was trapped in a gumball machine or being chased by a house cat. This hilarious contrast between his serious attitude and his ridiculous situation was the heart of the show's humor. Fact 12. That time he teamed up with Batman and was immediately crushed. Now, maybe the most infamous and darkest moment in Inch-High's career didn't even happen on his show, but in a Cartoon Network commercial. In a short promo, Inch-High teams up with Batman. As the bat signal lights up the sky, the two heroes run for the Batmobile. Now, Batman effortlessly leaps into the driver's seat. Inch-High, meanwhile, runs with all his might toward the giant vehicle, only to be unceremoniously crushed flat by its rear tire. It was a shocking, hilarious, and incredibly dark piece of black comedy that has become legendary among fans. Fact 13. He sued his boss for discrimination. In 2004, Inch-High made a comeback on the Adult Swim series Harvey Birdman, Attorney at Law. In the episode Trio's Company, he finally has enough of Mr. Finkerton's abuse and hires Harvey Birdman to sue the agency for wrongful dismissal, claiming height discrimination. He was voiced by the legendary Maurice LaMarche, who did a masterful job recapturing the original performance. Fact 14. The voice of a generation of characters. The man behind the voice, Lenny Weinrib, was way more than just a Don Adams impersonator. He was a legendary voice actor who shaped the sound of a generation's childhood. Besides Inch-High, Weinrib was the voice of HR Pufnstuf, Timer from the famous Time for Timer PSAs, the villain Prince Lotor on Voltron, and the McDonald's character Grimace. And most famously, he was the original voice of Scrappy-Doo before Don Messick took over the role. Fact 15. His modern life in Jellystone. Inch-High's revival continued with his inclusion in the Max series Jellystone, a show that reimagines the massive Hanna Barbera library of characters all living in the same town. Voiced by Fire Al Casey, Inch has appeared in several episodes. In one, he gets into a conflict with Lippy the Lion and Hardy Ha-Ha and ends up locked in a chest. So, if you had fun cracking this case, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe and ring the notification bell. We've got more case files on classic cartoons we're itching to declassify. Thanks for watching, see you next time.